Ever pondered over how fashion has morphed across the last 100 years? Welcome to a vibrant journey through the kaleidoscope of style, where we'll explore how fashion has evolved over the past century. From the roaring 20s to the digital age, fashion has been an eloquent narrator of our societal shifts, cultural movements, and individual expressions. Fashion, my dear friends, is more than just a frivolous pursuit of vanity. It's a dynamic reflection of our times, our values, and our aspirations. It's an art form that has the power to challenge norms, redefine beauty, and inspire change. It's a language that speaks volumes about who we are and who we aspire to be. As we embark on this stylish expedition, we'll traverse through 100 years of fashion, decade by decade. We'll witness the birth of iconic styles, the rise and fall of trends, and the indelible impact of fashion industries across the globe. We'll delve into the interplay between fashion and time, observing how the two have danced an intricate tango, each influencing and shaping the other. From the flapper dresses of the 20s to the power suits of the 80s, each era has its unique fashion fingerprint. These sartorial statements echo the spirit of their times, reflecting societal changes, technological advancements, and cultural shifts. In this journey, we'll also explore how fashion has been a platform for self-expression and rebellion, a canvas upon which individuals paint their identities. We'll see how fashion trends have often been a barometer of social change, a mirror reflecting the evolving norms and values of society. And while we delve into the past, we'll also cast an eye to the future, exploring the current trends and the exciting forecast for 2024. From the runways of New York Fashion Week to the bustling fashion houses of Italy, we'll get a glimpse of what's shaping the fashion world today and what lies ahead. So buckle up, we're taking a stylish trip back in time. As we journey through a century of style, we invite you to join us in celebrating the power, the beauty, and the transformative magic of fashion. Welcome to the 1920s, an era of jazz, flappers, and a whole lot of glamour. The decade began with a bang, bringing a fresh wave of fashion that was as vivacious and vibrant as the jazz music that filled the air. Women were bobbing their hair, a rebellious move that was as much a political statement as it was a fashion trend. The bobbed hair not only symbolized women's newfound freedom, but also perfectly complemented the flapper dresses, the decade's iconic fashion piece. These dresses, loose and with a dropped waist, were a stark contrast to the restrictive corsets of the past, reflecting the decade's spirit of liberation. And then there were the cloche hats, hugging the head and often adorned with beautiful embellishments, adding the perfect finishing touch to the flapper look. The 1920s were indeed roaring with style, but the 30s were about to give them a run for their money. As the jazz age faded, the 1930s brought a different kind of refinement to fashion. The 30s, a decade marked by the Great Depression, saw fashion as a beacon of hope and elegance. The era ushered in a return to a more feminine silhouette, a stark contrast to the boyish flapper styles of the 20s. The bias-cut gown made its grand debut, forever changing the way designers approached fabric. Crafted meticulously to follow the contours of the body, these gowns exuded a sense of sophistication and glamour. The silhouette was long and lean, with hemlines dropping as the economy fell. But even as the world faced economic hardship, fashion didn't lose its charm. The decade also saw a surge in accessories, with gloves and hats becoming an essential part of every woman's wardrobe. The 1930s were a testament to the resilience of fashion, to its ability to adapt and flourish even in the toughest of times. The elegance of the 1930s was undeniable, but the 1940s were about to shake things up. The 1940s, a decade of war, brought fashion back to basics. As the world was embroiled in conflict, fashion took a practical turn. The once extravagant dresses of the 20s and 30s made way for utilitarian clothing that reflected the austere times. This was a period where function triumphed over form, but that didn't mean style was left by the wayside. Instead, it evolved in a new direction. The 40s saw the advent of women's trousers, a revolutionary step in fashion history. Women, stepping into roles traditionally held by men, adopted these practical garments, signaling a shift in societal norms. Fashion, in its own way, mirrored the changing world. Even the most glamorous stars of the time, like Katharine Hepburn and Lauren Bacall, were seen sporting these utilitarian yet stylish outfits, embodying the spirit of the era. The 1940s showed us that even in times of hardship, style is never compromised. Post-war prosperity in the 1950s led to a fashion revolution, This was a decade of optimism, economic growth, and yes, fabulous fashion. The fashion trends of the 50s marked a clear departure from the practical austerity of the 40s. The hourglass silhouette made a triumphant return, with cinched waists and full skirts becoming all the rage. Women embraced the new look popularized by Christian Dior, characterized by voluminous skirts, fitted waists, and accentuated bust lines. Men, on the other hand, were not left behind. The rockabilly style emerged, combining elements of rock and roll and hillbilly music, which was reflected in their fashion. Think greased back hair, leather jackets, and denim jeans. These trends underscored an era of prosperity, playfulness, and a newfound love for expressive fashion. The 1950s brought flair and fun back into fashion, paving the way for the swinging 60s. The 1960s, a decade of change, saw fashion trends that reflected the times. It was a time when fashion took a radical turn, breaking away from the prim and proper styles of the previous decade. The rise of youth culture saw the fashion industry catering to the young and the restless. Mini-skirts, once a taboo, were now not just accepted but celebrated. Hemlines rose, and so did the spirits of the young generation who wore them with an air of rebellion and freedom. The influence of pop art found its way into fashion, with bold geometric patterns and bright colors. Designers like Mary Quant and Pierre Cardin took the fashion world by storm with their innovative and daring designs. The 1960s were a time when fashion became less about conforming and more about expressing one's individuality. The 1960s were revolutionary in more ways than one, setting the scene for the eclectic 70s. The 1970s were all about freedom, individuality, and a whole lot of color. In this decade, fashion was a canvas for self-expression. Bell-bottoms, once the uniform of the Navy, made a grand entrance into everyday wardrobes, flaring out in a symphony of denim and corduroy. But the 70s weren't just about wide-legged wonders. The disco era, with its glitz and glamour, also left an indelible mark on the fashion landscape. Sequins, satin, and skin-tight silhouettes became the uniform of night owls, reflecting the vibrant energy of the dance floor. And then there was punk. A rebellion against the mainstream, punk fashion was a loud, chaotic mix of torn fabric, leather, and studded accessories. It was about making a statement, challenging norms, and standing out from the crowd. The 1970s were a riot of color and style, but the 80s were about to turn it up a notch. Welcome to the 1980s, where bigger was always better. It was the era of power dressing. Shoulder pads weren't just for football players, they were a must-have for every power blazer, and the bigger, the better. And let's not forget the neon, the leg warmers, and the fingerless lace gloves. Fashion in the 80s was bold, it was loud, and it was unapologetically fun. MTV was the new kid on the block, and it wasn't just changing the music scene. With its flashy music videos full of fashion-forward stars, it was dictating what was hot and what was not. And then there was the rise of designer jeans. Brands like Calvin Klein and Guess were making denim more than just a casual wear staple. Jeans were now high fashion, and everyone wanted a piece of this denim revolution. The 1980s were a decade of excess, but the 90s were about to bring it back to basics. The 1990s pared fashion back, favoring minimalism and simplicity. This was a decade where the fashion industry took a sharp turn, shedding the excess of the 80s and embracing a more understated, almost androgynous style. The grunge movement, with its flannel shirts and ripped jeans, became the uniform of disaffected youth worldwide. It was a rebellion against the polished looks of the past, a reflection of the grunge music scene's angst and rawness. At the same time, hip-hop culture was permeating mainstream fashion. Baggy jeans, oversized shirts, and chunky sneakers were not just worn by rappers anymore. They were seen on the streets, in schools, and even on the runway. And let's not forget the rise of the supermodels. Names like Naomi, Cindy, and Kate became synonymous with beauty and glamour. They were the embodiments of the minimalist chic that defined the 90s. The 90s stripped fashion back to its essentials, setting the stage for the 21st century. The new millennium brought with it a melting pot of fashion influences. As the world became more interconnected, fashion began to draw from a wider range of sources than ever before. This era can be characterized by the blurring of boundaries, both geographical and temporal. The early years of the 21st century saw a rise in the influence of reality TV on fashion trends. Shows like Project Runway and America's Next Top Model brought the world of high fashion into living rooms across the globe. Suddenly, everyone was a critic and everyone was a fan. These shows not only showcased the latest styles, but also provided a platform for fresh faces and new ideas. Parallel to this, we witnessed the rise of fast fashion. Brands like Zara, H&M, and Forever 21 dominated the market, churning out new collections at a dizzying pace. While this meant that the latest trends were more accessible than ever, it also led to a culture of disposability. Clothes became cheaper, but their lifespan also became shorter. Yet, in the midst of this consumerist frenzy, there was a longing for the past. Vintage styles made a comeback, with fashionistas scouring thrift stores and flea markets for unique, one-of-a-kind pieces. The return of vintage styles was not just a nostalgic nod to the past, but also a reaction to the homogeneity of fast fashion. This era also saw a shift towards personalization and individual style. The internet and social media platforms like Instagram and Pinterest provided a space for people to share their unique fashion sense and find inspiration from others. The emphasis was no longer on following trends, but on expressing oneself. In many ways, the new millennium was a time of contradictions. It was an era of both excess and minimalism, of homogeneity and individuality, of fast fashion and vintage styles. But these contradictions only served to make the fashion landscape more diverse and exciting. The new millennium has been a wild ride for fashion, but what does the future hold? So what's in store for 2024? Let's take cues from the New York Fashion Week and the Italian fashion industry. As we gaze into the crystal ball of fashion, one thing stands out. The year 2024 is set to be a game changer. Fashion evolution is a constant dance, and this year we're doing the Charleston with sustainability. Yes, the green wave is washing over the fashion industries, and it's here to stay. From eco-friendly materials to zero-waste production methods, the fashion world is embracing Mother Earth like never before. But it's not just about being green. No, it's also about being smart. Digital innovation is strutting its stuff on the catwalk, and it's dressed to impress. The tech-savvy among us are already familiar with virtual fitting rooms and AI stylist apps. But hold on to your hats, because the future of fashion tech is looking brighter than a sequined gown under the spotlight. Imagine 3D printed clothes tailored to your exact measurements, or smart fabrics that react to your body temperature. The possibilities are as endless as a well-stocked walk-in wardrobe. And let's not forget about inclusivity, the VIP guest at fashion's party. In 2024, fashion is for everyone, regardless of size, age, gender, or ability. The runways are becoming more diverse, the designs more universal. Fashion is finally acknowledging that style doesn't fit into a one-size-fits-all box. It's about expressing your unique personality, and in 2024, everyone's invited to the style celebration. So, what's the fashion forecast for 2024? A high chance of sustainability, with a strong wind of digital innovation and a warm front of inclusivity moving in. It's a beautiful day in the fashion world, and we can't wait to see what sartorial surprises this year has in store. Fashion is always evolving, always surprising us. So keep a keen eye on the runway and don't forget to make your own style statement. Enjoyed the content? Give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to be the first to unlock exclusive content, updates, and exciting surprises. Thanks for watching.